Look what just arrived at the door. It's the Viltrox AF 28mm f4.5. So let's do a little unboxing here. Okay, there we have it. We have some silica gel, the warranty card. Let's get to the main subject here. This is a tiny little lens. It is, I don't know how thick that is. Maybe I'll put let's see here. What is it, like an inch maybe? No, it's not even an inch, I don't think. Very small, incredibly light. And one of the features of this lens, it doesn't have a lens cap. You couldn't put one on there. It has this little thing here that opens and closes, a little cover. So this is a full frame lens, they let you know here, and it is a fixed f4.5, 28mm, so relatively wide angle. Let's have a look on the back here. There we have the contacts, so it's autofocus AF. They've even managed to fit a USB-C port here so that you can update firmware. But man, this is tiny. Now, what do you think this lens would be perfect for? Surely the Nikon Zf should be a great pairing for this little Pancake lens from Viltrox. So let's put it on there. Now, oh, there it is. The red dot is on the inside, right there. Oh man, that is awesome. That's a what a great lens. So this lens has been out for a while in other mounts. I think Sony E, but now we have it for Z-mount. And once again, this is perfect for the ZF. So we're out and about today with this Viltrox 28mm full frame f4.5 fixed. That's a fixed aperture, so it's kind of interesting to work with because you can't just go for changing your aperture for exposure. So what you have left, of course, is shutter speed right here and ISO. So on a nice bright day like today, we have it at ISO 100, base ISO for this camera, and then basically I'm just changing shutter speed. See, I just did it. Yeah, so it's hard to remember that. I'm training myself, but I'm really having fun with this. Of course, the Nikon Zf. It's just a great street shooting little lens. It's quite fun. We'll get into later what the actual image quality is like. But from what I'm seeing, at least on the camera, it's quite acceptable. When I zoom in to the images, they look to be pretty sharp in the center. Towards the edges, who really cares? Anyway, it's a lot of fun, and so I'm going to continue. We're going to maybe walk around the park here and see what I can shoot. Incidentally, right over there is where my wife and I were married. How long ago was that? That was 2006, when I was a youngster. Anyway, the point is, we're going to have more fun with this camera, and later, as I said, we'll take a closer look at those images, maybe in Lightroom. But more than anything, I just want to showcase what I come up with this combination of the ZF and this Viltrox 26mm f4.5 lens. So this will be interesting because this has no lens hood at all, and the sun is right here. So let's see what happens when we're shooting directly into the sun. Our soldier is totally backlit. Alright, we'll see how that looks back in the dark room. So, just a couple of examples to show the characteristics of this Viltrox chip lens. I won't draw this out too much, but these are, for the most part, raw photos, that is, raw files from the Nikon Zf, with little to no editing and no added lens profile, though as you'll see, Lightroom has the profile for this lens already before the official release. So here we have a photo of an iris, and I just wanted to show that it's relatively sharp for a relatively soft lens. But nothing has been done to this. First of all, we can see that there's quite a bit of vignetting here. But let's remove chromatic aberration, enable the lens profile, and you can see here Viltrox AF 28 4.5 Z. So you can see that we've gotten rid of some of that vignetting, and we should now go in and give this a little bit of, let's see, sharpening, and we should also go in here and give it some texture. So now you can see that we're getting quite a nice looking image. Once again, very little has been done to this. Here we can sharpen it up a bit. We'll add the profile correction, and that's clean things up quite a bit. I wanted to use this image to look for chromatic aberration. And we can see, yes, there's a bit of purple fringing here. So let's try removing chromatic aberration, and that's clean things up a bit. That does help. Now I should do some more work on that. We'll enable the profile, and now you can see that's not a bad looking image for what it is. Next, I just wanted to use this. This has not been edited at all, and just to show the kind of background blur that we get. Here, again, completely unedited. Let's enable our profile. I just wanted to show a little bit of blue fringing here. That helps a little bit, but again, I should go into manual and help the fringing a bit there. Our purple moves into green there, so not too bad. I can live with that. And lastly, here's our little bit of an interesting flare here. And that's our backlit soldier. Before I wrap up this review, a few more technical notes. Now, I'm not sure that you could call this lens moisture resistant. There isn't a rubber seal as such. There is a sort of tiny lip around the rear edge of the barrel that, combined with the pressure of the bayonet, well, that might offer some resistance to moisture. But I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that it's weather sealed. Minimum focus distance is 0.66 feet, 0.2 meters, from the focal plane, so not a macro lens as such, but as you've seen, I did some close-ups. Somehow this tiny package contains 6 elements in 6 groups: 2 EG lenses to minimize chromatic aberration, 2 spherical lenses to reduce distortion and maintain image clarity across the entire frame, Viltrox says. I think we've seen that in my examples, though I do question how much clarity, strictly speaking, makes it to the far corners of the frame. If I have any real criticisms, they do take the price into consideration, because you can get this lens in your bag for under $100 US, as in $99. In Canada we pay $145. That said, it's not super sharp. It's not the best lens for environmental portraits because of that fixed 4.5 aperture. You do need to get in closer to achieve any kind of background separation. Full-length portraits are not going to get that bokeh that you may be looking for, but I do think the look of the bokeh is okay. Again, this isn't a $4,000 35mm f1.2. When it comes to autofocus, it's fairly slow to respond. Intermittently, AF is hesitant. It tends to pause, then backwards and forwards before locking on. But I'm comparing to the fastest Nikon lenses. I'm a bit spoiled by those. But most of the time, not all native NIKKORs are fast focusing. As we'll hear in a moment, what I'd say is that during the time that I've had this little Viltrox chip, as it's called, I've learned to work with it, and I haven't missed a shot that I was aiming for, even with relatively fast-moving subjects like trotting horses and speeding cyclists. So that's what's important. Even so, I wouldn't mind if Viltrox released a firmware update to improve focus speed and acquisition. Let's compare to its closest NIKKOR equivalent, the 26mm f2.8 Pancake, which will set you back $400 US. That's if you find it on sale. It's regularly $500, which means us Canadians pay a minimum of $539 on sale, $679 regular price. Now, full disclosure, I haven't used the NIKKOR 26mm 2.8 personally, but I have done a sort of deep dive into as many other reviews as I can find. So, based on a summary of those reviews, first, the NIKKOR lens does have an adjustable aperture from 2.8 to 16, has a manual focus ring, lens cap, and it comes with a tiny lens hood that accommodates 52mm filter thread. But it's not what you'd call optically superior. Without correction, it's pretty soft in the corners, as well as suffering from significant vignetting, and not just wide open at 2.8. It doesn't really clear up until you start running into diffraction at f16. Again, not my personal hands-on experience, but observed by reviewers that I trust. The NIKKOR 26mm isn't the fastest to focus either, according to reports. Maybe a bit more consistent. It's pretty expensive for a lens with these limitations, unless you're willing to pay that much for its particular characteristics. Briefly, this Viltrox lens, it isn't a lens that I choose for video, notwithstanding its focal length, which is wide enough to vlog, unless you're willing to control exposure with shutter speed alone, because it's not easy, or nigh on impossible, to add a neutral density filter to keep the shutter speed to the 180-degree rule. See my tutorial that covers that video technique. In the end, I'll let the photos that I've made with the Viltrox 28mm f4.5 chip lens speak for themselves. Now that doesn't mean someone else couldn't make better photos with this combo. And I have to give some credit to the fabulous Nikon Zf here. What a great camera, especially in low light. And not forgetting its excellent IBIS performance, up to 8 stops of 5-axis image stabilization. And the ZF applies stabilization to the area around the active focus point, wherever that might be. So that makes the correction even more precise. I just love this camera on the street when I'm often reacting fast, sometimes while I'm still walking. And as I say, this lens didn't really get in my way when I needed fast response. It's a great fit for this camera. You can see as I've shown, that this lens is pretty susceptible to flaring and dosing, no two ways about it. Sometimes it's possible to say, hold a hand above the lens in lieu of a hood. Not always practical, I know. So here's a lens that, within its limitations, is a really fun tool to work with, and it definitely has a place in my bag. At under $100 US, it's not breaking the bank either to enjoy its characteristics. Thanks to Viltrox for sending this lens along for me to test and review. I'll add purchase links in the description with a code for a 5% discount. Here comes the usual outro, but please stick around for a bonus gallery of photos made with this lens. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if this is your first visit to the channel, please do consider subscribing. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss new content. In the meantime, take care, cheers, we'll see you later.